Okay. Welcome. Okay, let's try this again. Hey, welcome to our virtual life group leader meeting, which is funny because life groups are all about connecting one-on-one. And here I am staring at a camera. Hey, we're making this for people who weren't able to come to our live life group meeting. We understand that schedules are busy, time is valuable, and even there's some distance between. Not everybody lives within a couple minutes of the church. And so we want to make this to accommodate to everybody. We are so excited. You have, if you're watching this, it's because you've been invited as a leader to either lead, co-lead, host, or consider doing one of those things for life groups at New Life Covenant Church. Our vision is building lives together to make fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. Life groups is a huge, huge part of that. And so real quick, I just want to, we're going to try to take as little of your time as possible, cover a lot of material, and just talk about the culture of life groups here at New Life Covenant. Okay, let's start with what are life groups. Life groups, you've probably heard of them. If you've been a part of a church, they've talked about cell groups, home groups, small groups, micro cell groups, rewind groups, halfway groups, half houses groups, whatever it is. You've come up with a lot of different terms. We call them life groups. Kind of goes with New Life Covenant Church. And so they're just really simple, not crazy original, but they are groups of people, 12 to 15 people getting together in houses or buildings across the city and just doing life together. The number one purpose is connection. And then we don't do, for our life groups, we do them in cycles. So there's an 8-week cycle coming up. There's times where they're a little shorter, a little longer. Most typically it's 8 weeks. And so we like to do life groups about 22 weeks out of the year, just about half the year around here. And then we work that in. We try to work around what's happening with life groups to make sure that people can go to those when we're doing them. And also, as we break from life groups, we always try to ask what's next so that people can get involved in other streams at the church. We do want to see people growing connection and also growing in God. And so they're an amazing way to do that. So thanks for joining. Let's just hop in a little bit to talk about how we do life groups differently than others. It's an 8-week session. There's a start and an end. A lot of that's for the host. It can be intimidating sometimes to go into a group that thinks it doesn't stop. And so we want to make it easy for people to jump into. And also we want to make it easy for people to commit to opening their homes, knowing that they don't have to do that all the way through Christmas or through their kid's birthday, that they can consider the 8-week session. And you don't have to do it every session that we do it. If you're committing to opening up your home, you're committing to opening it up just for this session, and we can reevaluate at the end and prepare for the next one. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is we try to put host and co-leaders together. So the person who is getting the house ready for guests is not also the person who is trying to think about how they might lead an icebreaker or host the conversation. It can really kind of be two separate entities. And so that we found that works really, really well. We got some notes here that we went through. The mission of life groups, and this is super important, the number one mission of life groups is connecting. Our vision, building lives together and making fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. I like to sometimes, although it can't be separated, I like to sometimes compartmentalize what that means, what events are geared towards what part of that mission statement. And the building lives together is the connection. It's we know that God has placed us together for such a time as this. And as we run and grow in God, some of us are doing that at different rates, but our relationships are what will encourage and allow us to contend in mighty ways. And when we do things alone, we can go so far, but when we do them together, we can really reach a world. And so if we can't talk about revival every Sunday or talking about changing our city if we're not talking about coming together in unity. And so the connection part of this is not just, hey, we want to know each other, but it's vital to the mission of the church, which is to stand with one another and to take the gospel to the uttermost. And so life groups, priority number one is connection. If someone comes into your home, we want them to be known, and we want you to know them. Hopefully they get to know you a little bit and the people in the group, and through that connection, the next step is to grow in God. And so we do that in a couple of ways. We can do that as they come into your home. That can be done in a simple icebreaker, which could be a question. When we did this live meeting, one of the questions that Steve Slate, who is our new life group director, I'm excited about that and have a little message from him in a little bit, but he just asked one simple question, which was, what are some traditions you have in your household, or some traditions you had in your household when you were growing up? And it led to us sharing kind of these secret things about ourselves. Man, my dad used to do this, or we like to do this, and challenging each other. But also, you kind of get to see where that person came from, you get to know that there's a supernatural thing that happens when you get to know somebody, as your grace expands for them. When you hear their story, all of a sudden, instead of that critical spirit that sometimes we have that creeps up and says, why can't they do this, or why did they do this? And all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, we know who they are and where they're coming from, and the mountain that they're climbing, and we want to climb that with them, and it extends this grace. When we can extend that grace to each other, we can extend that grace beyond each other and to the world. And so we want people to be able to get to know each other. A lot of times that's the simple part of just taking some time at the beginning of the group to have a connection point, to have an icebreaker, a question to ask, to go around and get everybody talking. The mission, I'm going to read this as Pastor Kit wrote it down. The mission of life groups is to build meaningful connections with people while they grow in their walk with God. Life change and spiritual growth happens best in the context of authentic, life-giving relationships and meaningful heart connections. Through life groups, the church is given the opportunity to be the living Lord. As a life group leader, you can help move towards a lifestyle of authentic community and spiritual growth. Your group can be a catalyst for the lives to be changed forever. Life group leaders need to take the role of an instructor, helper, facilitator, providing a safe place for participants to ask questions and find guidance in God's word. Okay, so the next part of that is talking about what God's doing in our lives. Our life groups are not done as Bible studies. They're not done topically. They're done. We really believe that the Holy Spirit is giving a word directly to our church every Sunday through the message, whether it be shared by Pastor Kit or a guest speaker. And rather than just leaving and saying, that was good, and going on with our week, and come Monday, hard to remember maybe some of the scriptures that were shared or even the overall concept that was taught, what we hope to do is have a conversation about the Sunday service. The only preparation you might need is to listen to the podcast, attend a service, or watch the live stream. If you've done any of that, you can jump right into a life group and you can talk about, man, during worship, I experienced this, or when that word was shared, I experienced this, or when Pastor was teaching on this point, it just really brought this to mind, and it really challenged me that I can do this, and that's the kind of conversation we want to have. If you're considering being a leader or even a host, well, we want you to know that this is not a captive audience there for your teaching. What we want to do is pull things out of people. And so a lot of times the leaders are the quietest people in the room. They're the people that ask the question and sit back and wait for the answers. And we encourage you, don't be afraid of silence. A little bit of silence is okay. It's people wondering, is there an opening here for me to talk? I don't want to cut people off. And so it allows people to kind of figure that out. So we definitely encourage you to ask questions, be open, and even pull back a little bit. If the conversation is going well, great. One of the things you'll get every week is you'll get some questions from the sermon that might apply to kind of turn the wheels of people. One of the very first questions, and my favorite question you could ever ask, is what did you get out of today's sermon? What did you get out of today's message? And a lot of times, and if this happens to you, it's a good thing. A lot of times people sit back and they just say that, like, they talk, and they will take you even to rabbit trails, and that can be okay, where people can say, that got me thinking about this, or it's got me thinking about this, and I had this question. And as long as it's appropriate and within context, man, if people are growing in the conversation and it creates community, then go with it. You don't have to get through those weekly questions. They're literally just there to help you. They're there to assist you, but they are not a mandate. There is no requirement of things that you have to get through. We just want to see this group connect, flourish, and talk about God. And the third thing every group should be doing is they should be praying together. We believe that there's power in prayer when you come together. And when we stand and speak authority together, we see breakthrough. Nothing supercharges a group like someone experiencing a healing or someone, even an encouraging word in the middle of someone who's struggling and who they're willing to say, you know what, maybe they don't ask for a prayer request the first time, but by the fifth or sixth time, the connection there is so strong that they're willing to open up and share their prayer requests. And that is such an important thing. As leaders, we'd love for you to not just hear their prayer and pray, but if you have an opportunity that week, follow up with them, find out how they're doing. We don't want to just talk about connection. We actually want to make real life connections. You'll find leaders in your group that are doing the same thing. People who didn't know each other come into your group and they're becoming strong friends and they're beginning to stand with each other through whatever phase of life they may be going through, be it a struggle or flourishing. And so you're going to see breakthrough. You're going to see testimonies. One of the things that is important for every group to do is just to share their testimony. Have an opportunity. Maybe you have one person a week share a testimony, or a couple people a week share a testimony, or even have one whole night dedicated to everybody sharing a short version of their testimony. Again, when you hear someone's story, when you hear what God has done in their lives and what they've been through, grace is extended, expanded, and relationship is built in ways that 100 Chick-fil-A meetups couldn't facilitate. And so I just encourage you to be able to do that. Know that our heart in life groups is not to get through a functional flow, but it's to build relationship. So every life group leader has a couple of options for them. You can have a life group nearly any time of the week. You can do it most often. It seems like over the last few sessions, we've found that most leaders have found Sunday to be a great day to do them. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. We've had some early on Sunday and some late on Sunday, and so those work well. We do have a couple of things going on throughout the week. We have, and so we want to be mindful of that. Aware that if we're double booking for maybe the School of Supernatural or a life session or youth or something like that, just being aware of those things doesn't mean you can't do it on those nights, but we want to be aware of people's availability and other things that they've been invited to be a part of. So if you have a time where you're like, man, I would love to do it, but Sunday at 6 does not work, Thursday at 5 p.m. or Thursday at 7 would be best for our family. Well, let's talk about that. Let's see if it works. We'd love for these to happen in homes all over the city. And if it doesn't work for your schedule, chances are it doesn't work for other people's schedules as well. And so we want to accommodate for all of those. So we can be flexible. Just to go through the schedule, the life group schedules are happening. Excuse me on that. Life group schedules. We talked about just the first 30 minutes could be an icebreaker, a connecting point. The second 30 minutes could be a discussion, talking about Sunday's message, and the third part could be ministry, prayer, care. A lot of mistakes happen when we think that prayer could happen in 5 minutes. A lot of times when you begin to ask for prayer request is when discussion happens. I'd like prayer for this situation, and someone might share a situation. Again, more connecting opportunities, but they take a lot. They can take a while, and so 20 to 30 minutes for prayer request is usually pretty adequate. A couple of things to make your life group amazing. We want to start on time. You as a leader have to be adamant to start and end on time. What we mean by ending, this gets it when people start opening up and talking. You may find, hey, I want to cut this person off, but I don't want to hold everybody captive. And if they have somewhere to go, or they were expected to get out at a certain time. If you start your life group at 7 and plan to be done in an hour and a half, that would be, if you start at 7, you'd be done by 8:30. If you start at 6, you'll be done by 7:30. And what you simply need to do is, if it's right at 7:30, you can just say, hey, can you hold on for a second if someone's talking? And you say, hey, just so everybody knows, It's 7:30. If you leave, it's not offensive. We'll continue to talk just a few more minutes. But if you've got to go, we totally understand and respect your time, and we're thankful for you coming tonight. So you allow that. The other thing is you want to make sure that you kind of set some ground rules at the beginning. Some homes are hosted differently. If you want people to come early, you can let them know. Hey, doors up. You can come as early as, if it opens at 6, you guys can come as early as 5:30. Hang out, and you can hang out till. If you want them to stick around for half an hour afterwards, let them know that. Give some ground rules at the beginning of the group so people know when they're respecting or overstepping boundaries. This helps not to have these awkward moments where someone's still in your house 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and you're really needing to get to bed. This avoids all of that. So just some groundwork as to what people are invited to do. Invited to come early, invited to stick around for a little while. We do have to get the kids down, or we do have work tomorrow, and so we need to end this and have everybody out by this time. It's a totally appropriate and okay thing to do. If anything, I think it helps set some ground rules so that people can appreciate. Oh, they're not wondering if they're bothering you or putting you out. We want you to be a good listener. You don't need to pressure anybody to answer questions or to pray. There will be some people that are introverts in the room. It doesn't mean they won't talk. It just means they might look for an opportunity to talk. And so if you have people who are dominating the conversation, you might say, you know what, John Doe, I won't use any names. You know what, John Doe, hold on a second. Let's just see if anybody else has anything to add. Or you might, if there's a little bit of space, you might just leave that and see if there's anybody else. If you have the opportunity, you don't have to put them on the spot, but if you have the opportunity and you want to hear somebody talk, you can even just say, I mean, I'd love to hear what this person thinks about this. And you'd have some time. Let me see. Oh, here's a big one. If something comes up, you are not a theologian, or at least you don't have to be a theologian to lead a life group. There's going to be something that comes up from time to time that you do not know the answer to. Do not feel like you need to do an immediate study. Do not feel like you need to try to make up the answer. Here's the deal. You're opening up your house because you recognize the love of God in your life, and you know how much God loves people, and you want to show them that. That's enough. If you don't have an answer to the question, say, you know what, I don't know how to fully explain that. I think Pastor Kit or Pastor Tim, or I'd love to get back with you on that, or convey that question to the office and have them get back. I think that's a great question. Don't feel like you have to be the one to answer that by any means. Also, if there is something to talk about, but it's not group oriented, you might just say, hey, you know what? I'd love to have a conversation about that afterwards, or let's meet up sometime and talk more about that. I want to just stay on track here. Simple cues to let them know that they're appreciated, but keeping things moving to where it is it keeps everybody involved. You can also let's see, when ministering, this is a big one. I hope everyone's listening to this. When you minister, we want you to be safe. We want to protect you. We want you to minister to your same gender. So men with men, women with women. Ideally, if you're not meeting with people privately, and definitely not the opposite sex outside of your life group. And so if Sally asks John, hey, I'd like to know more about this, here's the deal. You need to get people together, or you can connect them with a strong female leader in your group to help them address that. Pastor Vicky is always available to you guys, and the office is. So if you have any questions, you can direct those back to us. But we want you to be safe, and we want the relationships that you're building to have great expectations on them. And so that's just a great way to do that. It's just a good rule is men with men, women with women, and no one ever alone. The other thing is you don't need to be texting, emailing, or counseling anybody of the opposite sex. So it doesn't just go with meeting up for coffee, but just you don't need to be. You're not building relationships through life groups that need to extend to the opposite sex outside of this in a ministry capacity. If that makes sense. Again, we want you to stay safe, and some simple boundaries can help with that. We a couple other things, and then we'll wrap this up. I've got a message from Steve I'd like to share with you guys, and then we'll wrap this up. We want you to know that our life groups are not, every life group won't be a fit for everyone. You may not offer childcare at your life group, and so a couple may come but find that it's a little bit inconvenient to try to find childcare. So they may find another life group that does offer childcare. You may find that someone drives too far, they drive across town, and they just think, I can't do that. For whatever reason, any reason at all, if people find that they'd like to try another life group, we encourage it. You'll hear us from the stage say, hey, if this isn't your people, if you don't find that connection, especially in the first 3 weeks of life groups, we encourage people to check out a different one if they need to and be a part of it. And even if they do gel with you, and the next time we do live sessions, you open up your house, don't be intimidated or frustrated if they don't join as well. They may just be friendly people looking to continue meeting other new people in the church. And so we don't need to get territorial or think that we have a people group that we're collecting. By no means is that the heart of the church at all. There's freedom to move around, build relationships, and even try different environments. When you ask, the last thing I have on here, let's see. Here's a few helps, and these are tips from Pastor Kit. When you ask a question, be patient. Someone will eventually respond. I've addressed that already. When you pray for each member of the group by name each week. And what he's talking about here is, as you prepare for this group, especially leaders and hosts, be writing down the people that are in your group, who have signed up to be in your group and who have been participating, and be praying for them throughout the week. It's amazing what that covering how that will affect your group. You can pray to open, but don't just wait until they're in your home to minister to them. Minister to them through prayer throughout the week. Also, follow up on those missing. If you find that someone's been there 3 or 4 weeks and they're gone for a week, get their contact information and give them a call. Find out how they're doing. Send them a text message. They'll appreciate it. Trust me. When someone, I love this tip, voice appreciation. When someone shares they open up and they share their testimony or they share a prayer request, so many times we just kind of move on. Simple voice affirmation of just appreciating them for sharing that with you. They trust you with information that they may not trust very many people in the whole world with, but they're trusting this group of people. And so as a leader, just saying, thank you for sharing that, recognizing them, and not just moving on or not just responding, but taking a moment to appreciate their involvement is huge. Keep the office informed of anything your group needs or any major prayer request. If there's something going on in your group that you think we need to know about, please convey that. If there's a concern you have about the direction your group is going, we're here to support you. Steve and Sharon are here for you, as well as the entire church staff and church office. Just reach out to us. And then finally, remember that you were representing the Lord, you were representing Jesus, and you're representing the church. And so as you do that with the highest character and the greatest amount of love. Be praying that God will show you his heart for each of these people and minister to them out of your abundance of his love. Don't do anything or represent yourself or act in a way that would not be considerate of that character, the character of God and the character of this church. That's a lot of it. Also want to recognize Steve and Sharon Slate. They are the leaders of Life Group, and they'll really be pastoring and shepherding you through this whole process. They'll be emailing you the weekly questions, and if you have any concerns or questions along the way, they'll be the ones that your first line of encouragement. And a great asset. We are so excited to have them on the team. As a matter of fact, Steve asked me, he wanted to be at this meeting and wasn't able to make it. And so he made a video real quick. I'll pull it up. Just requesting a little thing from you. Here we go. See if I can get this on the video. Hi, Steve.
Hey, there was a time in Israel when the Ark of the Covenant was left at the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months. And the scripture says that God blessed Obed-Edom, his household, and everything he had because he welcomed the presence of God into his home. If you're willing, Sharon and I would love to come by your home and release blessing on you, your family, your house, because of your willingness to host his presence. It is gonna be good.
So Steve and Sharon Slate, who are our life group directors, have been lead pastors for many, many years, and they are going to shepherd well, and we're excited about that. One of the things they'd like to do is, if you're considering hosting in your at your home, he would love to come and just pray for you, pray for your home, and just pray a blessing over that space, and just not only for your life group, but for everything that happens for your family. You know, the word says that those who are planted in the house of God will flourish in his courts. And what we want to know is, as you put God's will first, as you prioritize this, it's not a small deal. It is a giant deal. And you are directly saying, God, you can use me and everything I have for anything that you want to do. And when you're doing that, man, watch out and watch everything that you do. Watch your work, watch your kids, watch your family, watch your hobbies, watch everything be blessed by God. As you put his house first, you begin to see your house be blessed in supernatural ways. And so we're excited for you to be a part of this. Thank you so much. It doesn't look like we have any questions. And so if you have any questions, you can email us at lifegroups@newlifecovenant.org, or you can email my email, tim@newlifecovenant.org. Thank you so much. 26 minutes. I told you I'd do it under 30. We got it done. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much. God bless.